Lightning slashed the midnight sky above the kingdom of Virelin, turning the spires of the palace into jagged silhouettes. The rumble echoed through the marble halls, but below the grand ballroom, where nobles trembled at every thunderclap, a different storm was brewing in darkness. Mira blinked through the torchlit gloom, her breath clouding in the damp chill of the catacombs. Books sometimes mentioned these tunnels, a winding maze where the old kings hid secrets, and the dead whispered to anyone who dared to listen. But Mira was no fearless adventurer, just an archivist, more at home with ink-stained scrolls than crumbling stones. Still, the feeling in her gut, that flutter of warning and wonder, drove her onward. She followed a trail of silvery dust, too deliberate for a rat's doing. Her heart beat quick, echoing in the narrow halls. Then, with a shuddering crack beneath her boots, the world shifted. The floor gave way. She tumbled, books scattering, torch falling from her hand, shadows swallowing her as she landed hard in a shallow pit. "Well, you made quite the mess," a small, lilting voice remarked from the gloom. Mira scrambled up, eyes wide. A creature with silver wings, no bigger than a house cat, hovered above her, a fae grinning mischievously. "Suppose I should thank you. You broke the ward, been stuck for days." "Ward? Who are you?" Mira stuttered, brushing dust from her tunic. The fae twirled, moonlight flickering through ancient windows onto an object half buried in the dirt. "More importantly, you found that." Mira stared. A fragment of glass lay before her, swirling with shadow and light. She reached out, fingers tingling as she touched it. A vision flashed behind her eyes, a circle shattered, screams in a strange tongue, two hands grasping desperately at the sigil of whispers. What is this?" Mira whispered, both terrified and transfixed. "A start, or the end," the fae replied, fluttering closer. "Name's Pip. If you want any chance at fixing what's broken, you'd best listen, human." Above them the kingdom's bells tolled, a sound that meant trouble for the world above. The peace that held for centuries was shattering, just like the sigil in her hand. With Pip at her side and the weight of destiny pressing in, Mira knows it's only a matter of time before someone or something comes for what she found. For the first time she wonders if bravery might be less a gift, more a necessity. Mira cradled the sigil fragment, its colors shifting restlessly. The catacomb silence pressed in. Above, far-off voices called, muffled by layers of earth and fear. Pip circled her, wings humming, eyes never leaving the glass shard. "Now then," Pip declared, bopping the air. "First step's not panicking, and you're halfway through that already. Second is figuring out why you bookworm." "Because I noticed the dust, saw the symbols on the walls." Mira squinted up, brow furrowed. "But I didn't know what this was. Everyone tells me I imagine things that aren't there." "Ha! Most can't see what matters," Pip smirked. "But the sigil calls to those who listen, or those desperate enough." Heavy footfalls thundered through the tunnels. Palace guards, no doubt. Mira's mind reeled. She had to move. "What do I do with it? This fragment?" Pip darted to her shoulder, voice urgent. "Hide it, and trust nothing gilded. The king's court will want it. That one, Lady Grell, she's got eyes like holes. They sense the smallest bit of magic. Out this way." Mira shoved the fragment in her bag, clutching Pip for balance as they hurried into a narrow passage. Through twists and sudden turns they squeezed between roots and stone. Pip whispered, "You'll need more than luck and lies. The sigil's lost pieces are scattered far. Some guarded, some cursed. Old friends and older foes will wake." A faint blue glow seeped through cracks in the wall, forming runes that pulsed with meaning Mira felt but couldn't name. She pressed a palm to the stone. Ancient syllables danced before her eyes. "Do you know what these say, Pip?" Pip hummed, wings slowing. "Bits of the first tongue. Trouble is, only the sigil's chosen can unlock them. Looks like that's you." As Mira stared, the runes flared, revealing a hidden door. It swung open with a soft sigh, inviting and ominous. Every instinct told her to turn back, but the weight of the fragment felt like fate. She stepped inside, Pip at her side, the door closing behind them with a thud that sealed her old life away. Footsteps echoed from the far end of the corridor. It wouldn't be long before someone noticed the archive's youngest member was missing. Mira gripped her bag tighter. What had started as an ordinary night was now the first step on a path winding deeper into the unknown. Her voice trembled, but she forced the words out. "Okay, Pip, where's the next piece?" Pip's smile was sly. "Into the heart of the Evergloom. Let's hope you read faster than you run, human. Twilight pressed heavy and strange as Mira emerged, blinking, from the secret passage. The catacomb's exit spilled into a tangled wood at the edge of Virelin, the Evergloom. Trees arched above, their leaves whispering in a wind that smelled of moss and magic. Pip's wings shimmered in the half-light. The palace bells still echoed, distant now, but Mira's heartbeat pounded loudest. She fumbled with the fragment in her bag. Will it glow when we're close to another piece? She whispered, always glancing back at the hidden stone door for signs of pursuit. Sometimes it burns, sometimes it screams, Pip said, grinning far too wide. Artifacts have moods, you know. Best hope it doesn't sulk. Branches snapped nearby. Mira hunched lower. Not all creatures of the Evergloom prized peace. She clung closer to Pip, voice tight. What if someone's following? What if it's Lady Grell? Pip darted up to a bent branch, peering around. Wouldn't surprise me. That one collects secrets the way you hoard books. They pressed on, brambles snagging at Mira's boots. The forest grew darker as they walked, the kind of dark that felt like watching eyes and sharpened teeth. Faint blue veins wove through the trees, lighting their path with eerie runic patterns. It was beautiful and cold and a little bit haunted. Pip suddenly spun in the air, yanking Mira's sleeve. There! See the hollow oak? A massive tree, gnarled and ancient, loomed ahead. Its bark was inscribed with symbols like the ones in the catacombs. Near the base, a thin shimmer traced a doorway, partly concealed by moss. Mira drew a shaky breath. Do we go inside? Carefully, archivist. Evergloom nests its memories close. Touch nothing your heart cannot bear to lose, Pip warned, voice more serious than before. Heart hammering, Mira stepped over the twisted roots into the oak's hollow. The inside was impossibly vast. A library of living wood, with shelves grown straight from the trunk and tokens of magic humming between the leaves. In the center hovered a shard of glass, larger than Mira's palm, pulsing with the same shadow light as her fragment. As Mira approached, a low growl rippled through the air. A creature emerged, part wolf, part mist, eyes like dying stars. It barred her way, bristling with ancient fury. Pip hissed, hiding behind her hair. A gloom wolf, bound to the sigil's magic. It guards the next piece. I have to do this, Mira whispered, mostly to herself. Hands shaking, she stepped forward, raising her fragment between them. I'm not here to take. I want to mend what's broken. The gloom wolf's growl faded, curiosity brightening its gaze. Mira's courage flickered, but she held firm, her voice steady now. Please, let me try. Behind her, Pip whispered, That's it, Mira. Show it you mean it. Show yourself who you are. In the silent standoff, the wolf stepped aside. Mira reached for the shard, the risk and promise of her quest now crackling in the charged air. But the shadows shifted again, a much colder presence creeping into the hollow. Something or someone was closing in, and Mira knew their trials were only beginning. As Mira touched the hovering shard, warmth sparked up her arm, like sunlight in her veins, quick and bright. The piece trembled, calling to its sister fragment in her bag. For a heartbeat, Mira glimpsed fleeting images. An ancient council splitting the sigil, whispered promises, and sorrow twisted into hope. Easy now, Pip murmured, peeking from behind a shelf grown of living bark. The gloom wolf's luminous eyes tracked Mira's every move, but it made no threat. The new shard snapped to the one she carried. Magic seethed where they met, and a web of runes glimmered between her fingertips before fading. Two pieces joined, but the sigil was still far from whole. Suddenly, a gust of icy air swirled through the hollow, carrying a voice oily with pleasure. Well, well, the mouse in the maze finds her cheese, the voice purred. From the shadows stepped a tall woman swathed in velvet black, Lady Grell. Her eyes, dark as dried blood, fixed first on the fragments, then on Mira. I expected a thief, not a dusty little nothing. Mira's spine stiffened. I'm not a thief. The sigil belongs with the realms, not in any court's vault. Grell's laugh was cold razors. You think you understand power, girl? The sigil kept the wild magic bound. Without it, your precious piece will choke on brambles. Mira's fingers closed around the fragments. Pip tensed, flicking pale light over the ground. Careful, Mira, her tongue sharper than her blade. Grell took a step closer, the gloom wolf tensing between them. Hand it over. You're not strong enough for this quest. Mira wanted to quake, but something inside her, steeled by danger, by Pip's faith and the wolf's test, held still. You had centuries to wield the sigil, and the world only grew afraid. I won't make the same mistake. Pip, help me now. With that, Pip blurred through the dark, tossing a handful of stinging fey dust at Grell's feet. The witch shrieked, stumbling back. The gloom wolf leapt, driving Grell toward the exit. Run! Pip squeaked. Mira dashed for the hollow's far side, Sigil pulsing in her arms, fear and resolve tangling in her chest. Behind, Grell's rage echoed, You won't outrun me, girl! The shadows remember! They burst into the moonlit evergloom. Trembling, Mira gasped, She'll come after us! That's what villains do, Pip grinned wildly. But you're not running anymore. You're searching. Next piece lies deeper, through the mirror pools. As the trees pressed close and the howl of thwarted magic faded, Mira looked at the joined shards, fragile, flickering, but stronger than before. So was she. This time, she pressed on, not just guided by visions, but by her own growing courage and the fierce belief she might just succeed. Mira pushed forward, the sigil's fragments snug in her pouch. Pip zipped ahead, casting darting shadows along moss-clad stones and gnarled roots. Each step deeper into the evergloom's heart made Mira's shoulders heavier, as if the very air pressed against her hopes. Are the mirror pools far? She asked, glancing at Pip, who looped through swaying branches. The Fae's mischief was quiet tonight. Even Pip could sense the change. Close, but not close enough to outpace Grell if she's still hunting, Pip whispered, glancing behind them. Twilight faded into night. They reached a clearing where hundreds of shallow pools dappled the earth, their surfaces as silvered as new glass. Moonlight shimmered, fractured into 1,000 trembling images. Mira knelt beside the largest pool. In its depths she saw her reflection and, just for a moment, her reflection looking back with a knowing, haunted gaze. Each pool shows more than face and form, Pip said quietly. It tests your purpose and your regret. Mira nodded, swallowing nerves. She brushed her fingers along the surface. Cold rushed through her hand, then the vision took her. She watched herself, years younger, alone in the palace archives. She saw pages torn in anger, knowledge destroyed to hide another's shame, a moment she'd tried so hard to forget. You let them blame you, said a voice, her own but distant. You hid when you could have spoken. Mira flinched, heart squeezed tight, but forced herself to meet her own critical gaze. I can't change what's done, but I will be brave now. I'll protect the realms, even if it scares me. The vision faded, the pool's surface rippled, and there at the bottom gleamed another sigil shard. Pip cheered. You passed. Not everyone faces their own shadow, Mira. She reached carefully, arm trembling as magic stung her skin. The shard leapt into her hand, humming with life. As the pieces joined, runes flared across her skin and up the fragments, dazzling the night. Suddenly, trumpets blared from beyond the trees, soldiers' alarms, close and many. Grell wasn't working alone. Mira stiffened. We need to leave, now. Pip nodded, fear in his eyes. Follow the light between the trees. There's another old path, but beware. The mirror magic lasts. What you saw may follow. Mira stepped quickly into the woods, the sigil's glow lighting the way. Each step felt steadier, the weight of her regret just a bit lighter. Up ahead, shadows and horns pressed in, but with 3 shards joined at her side, Mira's courage burned brighter, and so did the dangers waiting in the dark. The band of soldiers thundered through the evergloom behind Mira, metal and torchlights slashing the night. The sigil burned hot in her pouch, part warning, part compass. With Pip darting before her and fear pounding in her feet, Mira pressed deeper into darkness where even moonlight dared not follow. She nearly tripped as Pip yanked her aside, whispering, There! An old oaken bridge. Troll charm on the ropes. Speak no lies while crossing, or the wood breaks beneath you. With shouting voices chasing her shadow, Mira scrambled onto the slick planks. Soldiers crashed through the trees behind, Grell's voice sharp and furious above the din. Mira grabbed the rope rail, swallowing panic as mist swirled below the drop. Can you read the next clue, Mira? Speak the truth. Pip hissed, eyes gleaming in the low light. Runes shimmered briefly on the ropes, words writhing with magic. To pass, state the shame you hide and the hope you harbor. Hot with dread, Mira answered, I still fear I am nothing, just a coward in a room full of braver souls. The rope trembled but held. And your hope? Thundered the bridge's voice, low as stone. Mira's voice cracked but rang with growing force. I hope to make a difference. I hope to heal what's broken, even myself. The mist vanished. The ropes blazed blue just long enough for her to dash across, Pip on her shoulder. The bridge snapped shut behind, barring the soldiers with a roar and forced silence. They pressed on into a sunken grove, breathless but alive. Mira's legs shook, but the sigil's glow steadied her. Pip landed before her, grinning despite the danger. "You did it, bookworm. That bridge has eaten a dozen bold-faced heroes, but you spoke mostly true." She couldn't help a shaken laugh. "Mostly?" Pip gave her a sly look. "We all keep a little back. That's what keeps us moving." In the center of the grove stood a stone altar wound with blood-red ivy. On it, a new sigil shard spun slowly, a deeper red than the others, swirling with shadow. Beside it knelt a hunched, weeping figure, a dryad, her bark skin cracked with old grief. Mira's smile faded. "Is she a guardian too?" Pip nodded, whispering, "The oldest and the loneliest. She trusted the sigil once, and it betrayed her." Mira approached gently, words soft. "I seek to mend it, not steal. May I try?" The dryad lifted mournful eyes. Her voice, when it came, was cracked but strong. "Then share with me something that hurts, and something that still gives you joy. Only then will the sigil trust you." Mira knelt, voice trembling. "I hurt because those I loved let me do their hiding, but I find joy in learning, even when the words frighten me." The dryad smiled, tears glinting in the moonlight. The shard drifted to Mira's palm, warmth and sadness twined together. As the fourth piece joined the others, the sigil's glow sharpened, pale and wild. Pip touched Mira's shoulder. "Almost halfway. That was the hardest so far. You're changing, Mira. Don't lose that. Not when the darkest tests still wait." Thunder rumbled as soldiers regrouped across the chasm, and Grell's fury chilled the wind. But Mira straightened, hope flickering stubbornly, and led the way toward the heart of the forest. The true trials were just beginning. Dawn bled through the tangled forest, painting every leaf gold and emerald as Mira and Pip pressed on. Hunger and exhaustion gnawed at her, but the sigil, now nearly half-formed, pulsed with stubborn resilience at her side. She fingered the new seams connecting the shards, no longer cold, but warm as living skin. Trees thinned, giving way to a bone-white hill sprinkled with black stones, a graveyard abandoned by time and memory. Pip hovered close, nervous for the first time. This place, the ancestors sleep here, and some don't like to be woken. Shadows flickered at the edge of Mira's vision. As she climbed the hill, tombstones scrawled with forgotten runes whispered her name. Fear urged her back, but she thought of Grell and the echoes of regret in every shard she'd claimed. She pressed on. At the hill's crest, a statue stood. A warrior with haunted eyes, hand outstretched. In its palm, half buried in moon-blasted dust, lay the fifth sigil fragment, veined with silver and shadow. Before Mira could reach out, ghostly figures circled her, faces shifting in the morning mist. "You come seeking what you do not understand," intoned the tallest, a woman clad in ghostly armor. "The sigil's power demanded sacrifice. What will you lay down?" Mira braced herself, glancing at Pip, who seemed to shrink beneath the eyes of the dead. "What did you sacrifice?" She forced the question out, voice thin but resolute. "Our peace, our legacy," the ghost warrior replied. "Do you grieve for what you have already lost, Mira Virelin?" Mira swallowed. The answer came honest and raw. "I do. I grieve my parents, who trusted too easily. The childhood I buried under fear, but I'm learning to let go and to forgive." The ghost's forms wavered, the air softening. The warrior nodded, stepping aside so the spectral crowd parted. "Then claim what you are willing to heal, knowing the cost." Mira lifted the silver-veined fragment. The air shivered around her, feeling like approval. The ghosts faded with a final whisper, "Remember us." 5 shards, almost there. As the piece joined the others, the sigil flashed, images flitting through her mind. 2 realms torn apart, and an ancient pact growing fragile. "Mira," Pip whispered, solemn now, "next is the hardest trek, into Moorwoven Fen, where illusion and memory turn friend to foe, and Lady Grell grows desperate." Behind them, a crow cawed from an iron branch, unnaturally loud. The chase resumed, but this time Mira welcomed the fear. It meant she had something worth fighting for. She tightened the sigil at her belt and plunged toward the fen, holding to hope, no matter the cost. Mira's breath came out in cloudy bursts as she reached the edge of Moorwoven Fen. Mist swallowed the world second by second, shapes shifting and dissolving in the white emptiness. Pip buzzed behind her ear, voice thin and anxious. "Keep moving, Mira. Shadows in the fen don't like lost things, or lost people." Every step squelched. The ground sucked at her boots as the sigil's glow flickered uncertainly. Across the endless marsh, will-o'-the-wisps danced in swirling patterns, calling with voices almost familiar. Mira pressed forward, clutching the sigil to her chest. "Why does it feel so heavy here?" she whispered. "Like it knows I might fail." "It weighs your heart," Pip said. "The fen shows you your doubts. That's its curse." Through the fog, visions emerged. Her parents scolding her for prying into forbidden scrolls, Grell laughing at her weakness, the archivists whispering she'd never be more than a record-keeper in the dark. The voices clawed at her resolve, but every time she wavered, Mira found Pip's tiny hand on her wrist, grounding her. After what felt like hours, a mounded altar appeared, twined in black reeds. Atop it rested the sixth sigil shard, but a figure waited there. Lady Grell, hood thrown back, magic writhing in her palm and hatred rimming her eyes. "So this is how it ends," Grell hissed. Mira's voice shook but rose clear. "It doesn't have to. Help me remake the sigil. We can fix what's broken, together." Grell's eyes narrowed. "Fix it? The old ways chained us. I'll wield its power, not serve it. Give me the fragments, girl." Pip hissed behind Mira. "Don't trust her. She'll unravel both worlds." Mira stepped closer, desperate. "If you break what hope remains, you doom us all. Let me show you. See what the fragments remember." Grell drew a gleaming knife, poised to strike. The marsh trembled, her anger feeding the fen's illusions. In a flash, shadows surged, sending Mira reeling. She fought through phantoms and fear, concentrating on the sigil's warmth and Pip's courage. A single clear memory rose, Pip telling her, "You're braver than you know." She screamed above the chaos, "I am not nothing. I am not alone." Her words cut through the lies. The fog shivered and cleared just enough for her to snatch the shard from the altar as Grell lunged, her knife nicking Mira's arm but missing her heart. With a final surge of will, Mira pressed the sixth shard to the others. Light pulsed outward, washing the fen in clarity. Grell, howling in pain and loss, stumbled into the swirling mist, vanishing amid her own shadows. Exhausted, Mira collapsed to her knees. Pip landed by her side, pride in his eyes. "You faced her and your fears." Mira wiped away tears and blood. "I'm still standing. That has to count." Pip nodded. "Just one shard left. But Grell's not beaten. She'll return, and stronger. The sigil's almost whole, Mira. But so are you." Mira stood, battered but burning with new resolve. As they stepped out of the fen, moonlight revealed a distant mountain, crowned by lightning. The final piece awaited, and with it, the fate of every realm. The journey to the mountain felt like crossing between worlds. Wounded but undeterred, Mira and Pip made their way along moonlit paths, each step filling the sigil at her belt with a fiercer radiance. The mountain loomed ahead, jagged and crowned in stormlight, as if the world's wounds themselves had congealed into stone. Wind howled as they climbed the narrow path. Shadows clawed at Mira's heels, yet she pressed on, feeling every lesson and wound behind her, driving her forward. Pip flew close, weary yet determined. "It's nearly done, Mira, but the last shard is guarded by the mountain's oldest magic, wild unbound. The price will be greatest here." When they reached a windswept ledge, they found the mountain's peak wreathed in blue fire, at the heart of which hovered the final piece, a black glass shard, pulsing with ancient power. All around, the mountain spirit had manifested, a shape both dragon and storm, eyes swirling with the misery and hope of ages. "You come seeking what has been broken," the spirit rumbled, its voice as deep as the mountain's roots. "But do you know what it costs? Peace was bought with sacrifice. To mend the sigil, you must give up the thing you cherish most." Mira glanced at Pip, her heartbeat skipping. He squeezed her hand, fearless at last. "I'll stay if I must," he whispered. "You need this more than I do." Tears stung her eyes. "I don't want to lose you, Pip. Not now." The spirit's gaze softened. "Then choose, power enough to restore the world, but at the cost of your companion, or walk away and let division grow until nothing remains but ruin." Thunder split the sky. Onto the ledge swept Lady Grell, bruised but burning with vengeful magic, soldiers at her back. "Let her try," Grell spat, "or else I'll take the sigil by force. This era of peace was a lie." Mira stepped forward, voice gentle but resolute. "It's not just about peace. It's about trust, about choosing to heal, even if it hurts." Grell advanced, her soldiers casting nets of iron spell thread. Pip flared into their midst, scattering the enemy with dazzling tricks. In the chaos, Mira crossed to the spirit, holding the glowing sigil with trembling hands. Take me if you must, but please, let hope remain. Lightning flashed. The spirit's eyes flickered to Pip, then back to Mira's brave, tear-streaked face. The last shard wavered between them, the choice hanging in the charged air. Grell's voice, ragged, rose behind them. "End her, spirit, I command it!" But the ancient force turned from Grell and the thunder of war, focusing only on Mira's willingness and sacrifice. Mountains trembled. Cracks roared beneath their feet. The moment of decision, whose pain would restore the world, and would Mira have the strength to pay the price, blazed ahead, unavoidable. As the storm gathered for the final reckoning, Mira squeezed Pip's hand and stepped to the edge, ready to trade everything for the hope she'd found on her journey. The mountain and the world poised to witness her choice. Lightning traced silver veins across the peak as the world seemed to hold its breath. Grell's soldiers pressed forward. Pip spun circles of light to hold them off, and Mira stared up into the mountain spirit's ancient, sorrowful eyes, the final sigil shard hovering between them. Winds howled as the spirit repeated, "Choose. To heal the realms, the sigil must be whole. What will you give, Mira?" Mira's voice rang out, quivering but unbroken. "I choose hope, over selfishness, over safety. I give you the one thing I feared to lose, my friendship, my dearest companion. Take what's needed, but let the world remember the kind of love and courage that can mend what's broken." For a heartbeat, time froze. Pip's wings fluttered, face shining with tears and pride. "No matter what happens, Mira, I was lucky to walk this road at your side." The spirit lowered its head, blue fire swirling. "You would pay the price, though it breaks your heart. This is the true magic the sigil was meant to protect." The final shard shot into place as Mira and Pip clasped hands. The sigil blazed with pure, sun-bright energy. All across Virelin, magic shimmered as barriers broke, ancient wounds healed, and the heartbeats of humans and magical folk pulsed in harmony. The spirit enfolded Pip in tendrils of light. Pip smiled, unafraid. Just before he vanished, he whispered to Mira, "Tell the next tale, brave one. Make it a kinder world." Then Pip was gone, returned to the weave, where Fae live on as dreams and stories. Mira fell to her knees, racked with grief but radiant in resolve. Grell and her soldiers, blinded by the sigil's light, fled down the mountain, their anger spent and magic broken. Storms cleared. The mountain's voice softened. "You have shown what the wise forgot. True peace is born from sacrifice and trust. You will be remembered, Mira of Virelin, as the girl who healed the sigil by healing her own fear." When Mira returned to the palace, sigil whole and glowing at her heart, the world had changed. Fae and human walked side by side in the city again. Even the forest's oldest shadows lingered to watch her pass, hopeful. Yet she kept one secret. The familiar warmth of Pip never truly faded. Sometimes, in the hush between dreams and waking, she swore she felt him laughing in the breeze, or spying on her from a sunbeam. Years later, as she stood teaching the next generation of humans and magical folk, her voice steady, her eyes bright, Mira smiled at the wonder and courage that endures beyond loss. The sigil gave peace, but Mira's journey gave the world something rarer still, the memory that even the smallest, most frightened heart can change the fate of all realms. And far away, in the borderlands where stories are born, a Fae's laughter echoed, and the mended sigil shone bright as hope reborn.